Senator Madigan.
Thank you, Mr Acting Deputy President. $13 billion. It's a lot of money, isn't it? Such large amounts, though, don't trouble politicians. In fact, figures like this are proudly unveiled at election time. Big, fat, empty promises laden with money. And of course, $13 billion refers to the total funding for specific initiatives to support water reform in the Murray Darling Basin. According to the Parliamentary Library, $5 billion has already been spent on what is referred to as water programs. That's a nice, watery, vague term, isn't it? Water programs. I've made my view clear on the Murray Darling Basin Plan and the associated authority. I'm not a big fan of the plan, and in my view, it has brought nothing but hardship. It has ruined regional communities, driven farmers to the wall, driven up the price of water and done little for the environment. So let's get into the real world, Mr Acting Deputy President. $13 billion on one hand, and what have we got on the other? Real people facing immeasurable hardship, real people facing loss, real people getting out of bed every day, facing the increasing challenge of survival. On Friday night, I received this letter from a real person. June is the wife of a Victorian farmer in the Gannawarra Shire in northern Victoria. June is not her real name, but that doesn't matter. I share this letter with the Senate because it explains starkly and clearly the challenges facing our farmers. June writes, "Each month my family of four receives $5,000 from our farming partnership. $1,600 of this goes on an interest-only payment on our farming land. $1,000 is paid to our farming partners for our interest in the stock, that is, our milking cows, heifers, calves. We pay $403 a month on family health insurance, and $470 goes every month on vehicle repayments. June told me that leaves a total of $1,527 to pay for food, clothes, school fees, household accounts, as well as repairs and maintenance of their home for the month. Mr Acting Deputy President, that works out to $381.75 a week for a family of four. June says there are no discount supermarkets in her area. Fuel is 10 cents a litre dearer than in Bendigo, just 100 kilometres away. June writes, "Now last week our milk price was suddenly slashed from an already low income. The cows still need to be fed regardless of if we are being paid or not." She says the question was raised of my $381.75 a week allowance. How much could I put back into the farm account to pay feed bills? So the question is raised, do I feed my two children or do I choose to feed the animals that in turn feed us? June asks, I wonder, is this a choice that any of you have to make? It's a very good question, Mr Acting Deputy President. How many of us have been faced with such an extraordinary decision? June writes, I have an applied science degree. My husband has his diploma in agriculture. We are a higher educated family. We work 7 days a week. We haven't had a day away from work in well over 18 months. I, as a farmer's wife, with numerous ongoing health issues since having our two children aged 6 and 3, have taken a job to work off farm to meet just the basic necessities of life. I'm talking school fees, children's clothing and toilet paper, not the latest accessory or an iPhone. June writes, while I work off-farm, rushing from here to there, I am criticised for not staying home to raise my family, for not supporting my husband in his endless work and for not being the housewife I should be. While my friends who have worked their 9 to 5 hours, 5 days a week, enjoy 12+ months of maternity leave, I have bundled my children into the car to take with me to meetings. I've sat up all night catching up when I have had to nurse a sick child through the day. June says there are no family days for farmers, no vacation pay and no long service leave. She writes she graduated from university in 2012 and has been working in the same job on the same farm for 14 years. 10 of these years were drought declared. June says for some of those years it was through the blessings of the Salvation Army that household bills were paid. We have attended services for friends, fellow farmers who have taken their own lives. We've heard how the milk tanker driver found them hanging from the rafters. Did we ask why? No, we didn't have to. I knew why. Some have the fortitude to keep placing one foot in front of the other, to keep moving forward while others no longer have the strength. The farm that the bank owns for us was once a thriving dairy farm. The channel system was laid with a bullock team and the system flowed with gravity feed as the farm was carefully planned. When we moved in, the farm had not a blade of grass on it after 10 years of drought. In that time, the water right had been sold off, leaving it only a stock and domestic usage capability of a mere 19 megalitres. Fortunately, that year we had a break, and the farm showed its lush full potential. A dairy was rebuilt, fences erected, and the cows moved in. Then, Mr Acting Deputy President, June makes another salient point. She says, in the country's wisdom, water has been sold away from the landholders. Now it becomes a game for the investors who wait until farmers are desperate. They wait until it's so dry that farmers have to buy water to keep their animals alive. Speculators wait until then because that is when they will make their biggest profit. Mr Acting Deputy President, June explains her farm is entitled to have the usage of 385 megalitres on the current market. That would be $103,950 for the use of that water for one season. If we do not use the water we have purchased in this season, the water body reclaims that water and we are unable to use it next season. Don't be tempted to pre-buy for next year at a reasonable price, June says, because you won't be able to use it anyway. Now, if we attempt to buy that entitlement permanently, it would cost $847,000. I repeat, for June and her husband to buy a permanent entitlement for their small farm, it would cost $847,000. Mr Acting Deputy President, this is madness, it's extortion. But wait, there's a catch. June says the organisations overseeing water will only allocate a percentage of that water for your actual use, so we're left to buy the minimal amount of water to get through. This means we can no longer grow our own supplement feed, so we have to outsource for grain and hay. However, those farmers are also hanging out for the highest price. They have bills to pay too. June says, as a normal business would work, you add up how much the product has cost to produce and then add on your profit, yes? No. No, this is when the CEOs and the city step in and dictate how much they will pay you and have to try out and work in those parameters to make a profit. No wonder, Mr Acting Deputy President, our farmers are committing suicide. June says, and I agree with her, surely by now you can see how this system cannot possibly work. Farmers are being stripped bare, paying premium prices, selling at ridiculously low prices and being charged for the freight. Meanwhile, our forests are burning down because they are not grazed and there's too much fuel on the ground. Rivers are going stagnant and growing algae because of the lack of flow. Good, healthy Australian produce is being decimated and replaced on the supermarket shelves with imported products not grown to our exacting standards. Imported products full of chemicals and enhancers that are being fed to an ever-increasing society with major health issues. Mr Acting Deputy President, June asks a crucial question: what happened to common sense? She says, while farmers struggle and country towns die, new stadiums replace perfectly good stadiums that already exist. I have seen the floor in the Bendigo marketplace be replaced 3 times in as many years. Why, when it's made of concrete? Waste. So much selfish waste in our country, June says. Australia is a country driven by selfish wants as opposed to what it needs to survive. While other countries come in and buy our farmland and our water to secure food for their nations, Australians throw a temper tantrum until they get their latest iPhone. It is a disgrace what this country has become. June finishes, Mr Acting Deputy President, on a poignant note. She says her 6-year-old son has a dream. He dreams of owning the family farm and a contract harvesting business. He has a plan to house a team of Clydesdales so that on the front of his farm he can turn the soil the old way and show people how it was done. Then on the main part of the farm he plans to use his modern-day machinery to till and plant and harvest to show people how he grows the food. June tells me, Mr Acting Deputy President, her mission is to outlast this era of selfishness and stupidity, to hold on to her land, at least so that maybe her children have a chance. How will we do that, she asks. We already have a backup plan if the stock have to go. It will be one less farm growing food for Australians. June says she has learnt this country values money higher than food, so maybe we will all both have to work off farm to keep our kids alive. But now this, while you all eat petrified food imported and kept for months in transport, I'll be eating fresh Australian vegetables, homegrown lamb and beef, and I'll continue to at least milk a cow for us. Why? Because I'm a farmer and I know how to grow the best food. Just because Australia chooses not to eat homegrown doesn't mean we have to. Mr Acting Deputy President, June is understandably angry. Enjoy the destruction, Australia. I hope the cash you are bleeding from Australian farmers tastes as good as our steak because the cash is all you'll have. June finishes off with a solution, Mr Acting Deputy President. Re-gift the young farmers with water rights, she says. Reopen the grazing land. Ban water being taken from the land. Give the farmers a chance to produce the food you want to eat. Stop importing cheap subsidised products. See to the country's needs. You don't let a petulant child dictate what is for dinner. Stand up and lead with dignity, justice and strength. A government is meant to strengthen a country, not destroy it. Mr Acting Deputy President, I don't support the plan, but I will vote in support of these amendments if they bring only a pinch of improvement and relief for our farmers and our irrigators. They deserve to be passed. But this may be only the start of a return to common sense to our agriculture and water policy in this country. Thank you, Mr Acting Deputy President.